Good evening. Welcome to Community and Technology, where we connect the global community with news, information, and resources to hopefully help improve your life. I'm Stu Reid, your host, and have a very special guest returning, not a stranger to our airways, Mr. Corey Stedman. He's the CEO of, what's the name of your company? Greenfield, is that right? Green
Green
Fire.
Fire,
Green
Green Fire
Fire, sorry.
Inc.
Corey
Yes.
Stedman, CEO of Green Fire. He's a certified Bitcoin professional, and we're going to talk about cryptocurrency and Bitcoin and that whole area. He was on the air with us about 2 or 3 years ago and kind of gave our audience a kind of a baseline introduction. A lot has happened since then, both in the industry and with Corey himself. So, Corey, welcome to Community and Technology.
Thank you so very much for having me on, Stu. Really
Okay.
appreciate it.
Yeah, for sure. So tell us a little bit about Green Fire and what you're doing and what's happened over the last couple of years since you're on the air with us.
Green Fire, we're a technology company, and we are developing software that either directly or indirectly interfaces with cryptocurrency and blockchain technology. Um, Currently, we are working on a cryptocurrency wallet with accounting functions. Um, and that's pretty much all I want to say for right now, because we are like about 80% done. And, you know, I just want to I want to, before I really talk about it, I want it to be done.
I understand.
Uh,
I
so
understand.
that's pretty much what we're working on right now.
Okay, well, we certainly don't want you to divulge any secrets.
Yeah.
But if you could, a lot of our audience doesn't really know what you're talking about when you say a digital wallet or a crypto wallet. So kind of back up for folks who maybe have heard about Bitcoin, but don't really know what cryptocurrency is. Give us a, 101 lesson like we're in the fifth grade.
Certainly. So, um, a cryptocurrency wallet is, think of it like think of it just like our regular wallet that holds our currency. So your regular wallet is able to hold uh, euros, Canadian dollars, US dollars, etc., naira, rand. And so a cryptocurrency wallet, um, what it does is it holds your currency. And the mantra in the cryptocurrency space is, if you don't have your private keys, you don't own your cryptocurrency. So essentially, people buy cryptocurrency on a cryptocurrency exchange, but for you to actually own it, you have to take it in your possession. And the way that you take it into your possession is you send it to another cryptocurrency wallet that you have access to the private keys. When you have access to the private keys, it allows you to sign transactions and send them to other wallets. Otherwise, if you leave your cryptocurrency on an exchange, the exchange could implode, which is like get hacked or become insolvent, and you lose access to your currency, to your cryptocurrency. And so it's a very common practice, and it's best practice when you buy something on a cryptocurrency exchange, especially if it's a large volume of of cryptocurrency. It's best practice to send it to a local wallet, that you control. And in a couple of months, these guys will be our competitor. But one of the best cryptocurrency wallets on the market is Exodus. Um, it's Exodus, and they support a number of cryptocurrencies, and they give you access to your private keys. They don't have access to your holdings or anything like that. So once you send something to your wallet, that's it. That's in your possession. You control it. Um, and you can send it to your grandma, you can send it to your cousin, to your aunt, to your friend, whoever. You can use it to pay your bills, anything.
Okay, let me back up, make sure I understand this. So you
Mhm.
can buy cryptocurrency on an exchange
Yes.
and you own it, but you can't really do transactions with it until you get the key, which is like a code, if you will. Is that
So
correct?
in a sense, so you could send it somewhere else, and you can use it to trade. However, the danger with keeping your cryptocurrency on an exchange is that they can implode, they can get hacked.
Mhm.
So one of the most famous hacks was Mt. Gox, um, and they got hacked, and or rather, they became insolvent, and people lost a lot of Bitcoin. And they they couldn't get
Mhm.
access to it. Um, and so it's best practice that when you when you purchase cryptocurrency on any exchange, that as soon as possible you send it to a wallet that you control. And so yes, typically, like if you think of an exchange like Coinbase or Gemini, yes, they're safe, but you never know. You want to take that extra precaution.
Mhm. Okay.
Yeah.
So give us fill us in a little bit. Um, you're talking about different exchanges, and there's more. Bitcoin, of course, is the most famous, if you will,
Mhm.
cryptocurrencies. But there are many others, are there not? Tell us a little bit
Certainly.
about the range and how they relate to each other.
So one thing that's definitely been going on is a lot of the alternative coins or altcoins, and
Mhm.
altcoins are any currencies that came out after Bitcoin, right? So you have Ethereum, you have Litecoin, Cardano, all of them, right? And what's been going on is that Ethereum has been on, um, just a streak, a growth streak. Uh, in the beginning of 2020, it was around $80. Right now, it is $3,000.
Wow.
Yeah. Um, and that's due in part to a number of things. Ethereum is an ecosystem, so it's not just a coin. A lot of people, um, they they see these coins and they just think, well, they're just speculative assets. But many coins have actual functions. They do things. Bitcoin, what its premise was, um, how do we efficiently send value from one person to another in a timely manner. And honestly, that was never possible before. Um, in a very programmatic way. Um, with Ethereum now, they took it a step higher than that, where they said, well, how can we really program money? How can we make it do things? And so Ethereum is not just a vehicle of value transfer, but it's actually a computer. It's referred to as the world computer, where you can program it with something called smart contracts. They're basically programs that interface this with the Ethereum network and perform functions. And so one of the things that you might have heard of in the past 6 months is NFTs, non-fungible tokens. And so essentially what a non-fungible token is that, you know, because the blockchain allows for scarcity to exist in digital environments, now you can actually mimic real world conditions. So, if I take a piece of paper and I, draw a stickman figure on it, that's non-fungible. That's one of one. You know, only I made that, in the likeness and the style that I've done it. But that wasn't really possible per se in digital spaces. But now with NFTs, now you can actually create one of one items in a digital space. cryptographically verifiable. And so most of this NFT activity happens over Ethereum. And for you to mint a token, which means minting is essentially you're committing this token, you're committing the hash data of this token, you're injecting it permanently into the Ethereum blockchain. It requires a fee, and that fee is in Ethereum. And so there's a scramble not only to buy art or NFTs, you buy, and NFTs typically right now are art, but they could be anything else. Right? Not only are people buying NFTs with Ethereum or Ethereum-based tokens, but they have to pay the gas fee, which is the fee that allows you to transfer Ethereum across the network. You need Ethereum to do that as well. And so all this activity has caused the price to go up. And
Wow.
so when it was initially $80, now it's 3,000. Um, and the value will go up because of the value that Ethereum brings to the marketplace. Because it was the first of its kind to actually do that in that way.
Okay, Corey, you got to break this down a little bit
No
for us.
problem, no problem. I know it's a lot. It's a
This some
lot.
complex stuff.
Yeah.
You mentioned blockchain, which I know a little bit about. You talked about that in some depth when you were on the show before.
Mhm.
But give folks just a really quick thumbnail what blockchain technology is, and then if you could explain. I know that Bitcoin works on blockchain,
Mhm.
Ethereum works on blockchain, but now you're saying there's a value add to the Ethereum, and I didn't quite get. You got to run that
Okay.
past us again.
No problem,
So
no problem.
back up
So
just a little bit.
no problem. So a blockchain basically is a distributed immutable ledger. So think of it as, you writing transactions in a notebook, um, and you're writing it in pen, so it can never get erased. And each time you write in that notebook, it magically appears in other notebooks, um, distributed all across the globe. So
Hmm.
that's like a very simplistic way of describing what a blockchain is. A little bit more technically, what a blockchain does is it um, it dictates scarcity in digital environments. So
Now break that down. As I understand it, it dictates scarcity because there's only a finite amount of coin that can be produced. Is that correct? How does
no,
that work?
so what it is that before the blockchain, there was a problem in computing, and the problem was how do you dictate scarcity? So if you had a picture or a poem in a text file, you can control copy and control paste it essentially infinity.
Hmm.
There's no guardrails per se except the constraints of your hard drive. But I mean, you know, what's the difference between 1,000 or 100,000 copies of a poem versus a million copies of the poem? You
Hmm.
made copies of it.
Okay.
um, and we know that for something to have value, there has to be perceived or at least perceived scarcity involved in it, right? And that was the main problem plaguing computers just in general. You couldn't uh, you couldn't create scarcity, you know. So and that's the main that's the main thing behind virility and memes on the internet. Is once you put a meme on Twitter or on Facebook, it's all over the world.
Right.
There's no way to stop it.
Hmm.
What the blockchain did is it's mimicking, in a philosophical sense, is mimicking what we're used to in the real world. If I hand you a cell phone in the real world, I no longer have a I no longer have that cell phone in my hand,
Right.
right? And so we're applying these physical properties to digital environments. And once you're able to apply these physical properties to digital environments, now you can actually create things that adhere to our physics in a sense. And so that's how we can create non-fungible tokens, and that's how we can create cryptocurrencies with hard caps.
Not
Oh,
non-fungible. What's that mean, Corey?
so non-fungible means uh, that for our fungible means that if I give you $1, right, you don't care, you don't care whether I took it from my red wallet or from my couch or for it doesn't matter because they're interchangeable, right?
Mm-hmm.
Non-fungible means that it's not interchangeable, it's one of one,
Okay.
right?
Mm-hmm.
Um, and so it in regards to the blockchain, right? The first thing was in regards to Bitcoin, the first thing was how do we create a currency that is limited? We can dictate its limit. We can dictate the amount that's ever going to exist, but how do we make it fungible? And these are some of the core properties of any currency, whether it's a euro or a naira or a yuan. It has to be fungible. Um, but then once that part was taken care of, now we can create art and other things on the blockchain because we have this first part done already.
Okay. What do you mean when you say we can create art on the blockchain?
So, I mean, typically people, artists, they create art,
You mean like a
and
painting
a
or
painting or anything,
okay.
right? But once they sell it, that's it. They don't
Mm-hmm.
see the proceeds, or they rarely see the proceeds on the secondary market. But with but in regards to this NFT markets, you can create artwork, digital artwork, and you can attach a royalty to it, so that any time that it sells thereafter, you get a percentage of that sale in perpetuity.
Okay.
That was unheard of
Mm-hmm.
before. Um,
So like for music, for instance, I mean, would
oh,
that apply?
that would apply to music as
Okay.
well. And I don't even think it's really been exploited yet. To be honest with you, as far as I can tell, um, and that's something that's going to really shake up the music industry in the coming years.
Mm-hmm.
That you know, I mean, before music artists, they're really beholden to record labels. And you hear all these stories about record labels owning people's masters,
Mm-hmm.
you know, whether it's Taylor Swift, having issues with her masters, or Prince had issues with his masters, and
Right.
you know, all these different issues. Um, this changes everything now. This changes how artists get compensated. So all that needs to occur now is the proper infrastructure to be built out. A platform, whether it's a Spotify or a SoundCloud uh, clone, and that's it. Um, or if SoundCloud added a function or a mechanism uh, that incorporated NFTs, that's it. Um, they could be just as big as a Spotify.
So let me see if I understand what you're saying. So if there were a Spotify clone that uses technology, you're saying the music cannot be reproduced by some third party?
No, what I'm saying is that um, like if there's like an iTunes clone or a Spotify clone, and artists put the music on it based off of the plays, they can get they can control the royalties as opposed to the other way around, where the label or the
I see.
platform
Okay.
controls the royalties.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, so
So
so now overlay on top of that the Ethereum that you were talking about, and what that adds to this whole mix.
so what Ethereum does is that it allows it brought to the world smart contracts. And smart contracts are programs that perform actions based off of conditions and events and triggers. And so I'll give you a short example. Just imagine if you own an apartment complex and you said, listen, on the first of the month, I need my rent, right? You deposit one Ethereum into my wallet. And if there's no Ethereum in the wallet, your door doesn't unlock. You know,
Mhm.
obviously that's a very extreme
Right.
example, but is to demonstrate how a smart contract could potentially work um, out in the real world,
Gotcha.
where yeah,
hmm Where all those things get interconnected.
where all those things get interconnected. Exactly. Yeah,
hmm hmm
yeah. So Ethereum had brought the whole smart contract idea to the cryptocurrency space, and then essentially um, a whole a whole slew of other currencies came around and adopted it. So you have currencies like Tezos, you have currencies like Qtum, um, you have Ethereum Classic broke off from Ethereum. We have Zalika, and there's a whole list of other currencies that perform uh, that are smart contract enabled, um, and they allow for users to program, you know, whether it's um, whether it's just basic functions or just artwork or whatever into the blockchain, and just set them wild and do other things.
Wow, interesting.
Yeah, yeah.
So are these currencies competing with each other? I mean, what does the whole ecosphere of all the cryptocurrency, what does that look like?
So I was once like I was once a Bitcoin and Litecoin maximalist, in the sense that like I didn't really pay that much attention to the other currencies that were out there.
hmm
But then there was a guy, Charlie Shrem. He said something so profound. I went to a meetup that he was at, um, and someone had asked him, "Wait, what do you think about all these other cryptocurrencies?" He said they all. I'm paraphrasing. He said um, they all play their role. And so a friend of mine recently asked me um, the same question, and I said, think of cryptocurrencies, the whole spectrum of cryptocurrencies. Think of them like elements on the periodic table. Just imagine a world where only hydrogen existed.
hmm
You know,
Okay.
we wouldn't be here,
hmm
right? And so essentially, cryptocurrencies, they all play their role, and they essentially they're all consider if you're to consider them all elements on a periodic table, um, they all play their role, and eventually, and you're seeing it now, they will interact with each other, where there's where there's a use case where you're using one and you use another and you combine them, and they perform a function that they couldn't efficiently do on their own separately.
hmm
And so you're starting to see little things like that here and there. I mean, the simplest example is, you have a currency like DAI, and basically it's a currency, it's a stable coin that gives you 2%, or depending on the platform, it'll give you 2% back, like interest in a sense. And for you to send it, you need Ethereum because it runs on top of the Ethereum blockchain. So you already have these like in essence a cooperation of
Hmm.
sorts,
Hmm.
working together. Um, and there's numerous examples of that.
Okay, now again, just for us neophytes, cryptocurrency, it's not backed by any other commodity. It's not backed by gold. It's not backed by silver. It's not backed by a government. It's totally virtual. Is that correct?
It's totally virtual, but I think it's a mischaracterization to say that it's not backed by anything. Um, and the reason why I say that is when you think of the US dollar or any other fiat currency, and a fiat currency is a currency issued by a government,
Hmm.
um, the only way that they control it is by lowering and increasing the interest rate, right? There's no hard cap, so inflationary. Um, it's inflationary by nature. In regards to cryptocurrency, well, we have math, we have code, auditable code. You can look at the code for Bitcoin or any cryptocurrency. You can look at it. Um, there's a math involved. So Bitcoin, there's math and time involved rather. So Bitcoin adheres to roughly a 10-minute block time. So every 10 minutes, more Bitcoin is emitted onto the network. There's a hard cap. There will be only 21 million Bitcoin ever in existence. And the last Bitcoin to be mined is around 2100 or like 2130, something like that.
The
Uh,
year 2100.
yes, yes.
Hmm.
Um, so
Who controls that? Is that controlled or is that built into
it's
the
built
code?
in. It's
Okay.
built into the code.
Hmm.
And so, and then on top of that, if you look at the blockchain, it's able to dictate scarcity in digital environments. Never been able to, that was never done before, period, right? So you look at a combination of all these different aspects of it, and you know, if you look as a point of comparison, uh, Linux is an operating system. It's an open source operating system, and at one point back in like 2005, it was valued at around $2 billion. So if you're to replicate that code in normal corporate America, it would be worth $2 billion, right? And it has since been added onto since then. If you use that as a point of comparison, you can definitely say that cryptocurrency or Bitcoin or Ethereum or whatever, they have innate value, that they are backed by code, by time, by math, by human effort that has all been put into it. And so, for when people say that it's not backed by anything, I don't. They're kind of missing a large portion
Hmm.
of the point.
Hmm. Yeah, I guess that's even underscored more when you realize that the U.S. dollar is no longer backed by gold or silver.
Nope.
It's, it all works on the presumption that people impute value to it
Yeah.
and will cooperate in the transactions.
Yeah.
Once confidence disappears in that, then the value would go to zero.
Yeah. And one thing that a lot of people don't know is that, well, number one, they don't know about they don't know about fractional reserve banking. And so not only does the US government print up money, right? But banks, in essence, participate in putting dollars into circulation by lending out your money at a factor of 10 to 1. So your $1 can be lent out 10 times to other people. And
Mm.
so that contributes to it contributes to the money supply, and that's a form of inflation. And so over time, your money, your dollar is losing power. I remember when I was a kid, my mother would buy a lot of groceries for $20,
Yeah.
you know?
Hmm.
I remember when I was a teenager, a dollar would buy uh, a soda and two bags of chips, you know?
Hmm.
Um, that's not the case any longer. The dollar is losing value, you know? Um,
And that's built into the very definition of the system, as I hear you talk about it.
exactly, yeah.
Hmm.
The dollar is losing value, and that's
And
essentially
that's
by
all
design.
fiat currency, all government
And all
issued
fiat
currency.
currency, it's not just the US dollar or it's not just the Canadian dollar. All fiat currencies, because they're inflationary by nature,
Hmm.
they will lose purchasing power over time.
Hmm. Wow.
Yeah.
Okay, we're going to take a quick break. We're talking with Corey Stedman about cryptocurrency, blockchain technology. This is WHCR 90.3 FM, the voice of Harlem. We'll be right back. we're back. This is Community and Technology on WHCR 90.3. I'm Stu Reid. I'm here with our very special guest, Corey Stedman, no stranger to the airwaves here. He's an expert on virtual currency, cryptocurrency. And we've been talking about Bitcoin and Ethereum and a number of other related cryptocurrencies. Now, Corey, one of the questions I had is, you talked about their Bitcoin, for instance, has built-in scarcity to its model, so that in 50 years or 80 years, there will be no more Bitcoin generated. Is that built into all of the cryptocurrencies, that scarcity model? And if so, what happens when we get to the end of that timeline?
So most cryptocurrencies adhere to that model of a hard cap. Um, there are exceptions. So Ethereum is one exception. Um, Dogecoin is another exception. So they both have inflation curves. In regards to Ethereum, not in regards to Bitcoin, I meant once it runs out, and so it's kind of a misnomer about it running out. What it is that the emission rate is halved every 4 years, roughly every 4 years. So it started out at 50, then it's 25, then it's 12.5, then 6.25, and then so on and so forth. So it never really hits zero per
Gotcha. It
se.
goes infinitely,
Yeah.
continues to half. Okay.
So the incentive for the incentive for miners to keep mining is the fees. So as the emission rate goes down, right, the fees will supplant the emission rate. And so for you to send Bitcoin, there'll still be a fee, and the fee is what will keep miners interested in continually supporting the network.
Well, can I break it down real quick? Well, what's a miner? Explain that to our
So a
listeners.
miner is someone that validates, well, they have a computer and it validates transactions on the network. And so think of it almost like an underwriter in a sense, but an automated underwriter. And so you have this piece of paper that comes across that says Stu wants to send 2.5 bitcoins to his friend, and he's attaching or he's there's a fee that's going to be associated with it, and this underwriter is making sure he's checking with the other underwriters on the floor that Stu indeed has 2.5 bitcoins to send to his friend Gary. And if he doesn't, the transaction is rejected. It just won't go through at all. But if it's there, then the underwriter will essentially say, well, yes, this transaction can go through. And for me performing this service, I'm taking a fee. And then he updates all the other underwriters that Stu just sent this transaction. Mark it down in your ledger as well. And so that's basically the function of the miners. It's a little bit more complicated than that, but that's what it is in a very simplistic
So these
term.
are all folks that are on the computer network, if you will, that interfaces with the blockchain software that controls and manipulates the currency.
Yeah. So what these miners do, and on each network it's a little bit different. Um, what the miners do is they handle consensus, and so what they do is they have to all agree that Stu says that he has 2.5 bitcoins to send to someone else. And they all come to a consensus that Stu has this and that he can send it somewhere else. And so what miners do is they maintain consensus on their network. Um, and that's basically their function.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
Now, what about creating new Bitcoin? I thought miners were involved in that as well. Or is that a ancillary
so
process or what?
so for them validating transactions across the network, they get rewarded not only in the fee, but then the emission of Bitcoin onto the network.
Okay.
So every 10 minutes, more Bitcoin is emitted onto the network. And a miner who was the first to validate your transaction is the one who wins or is granted the right to, well, he's granted the right to validate your transaction, and for validating your transaction is awarded the Bitcoin that's emitted um, during that block cycle. And the block cycle is every 10 minutes. So every 10 minutes, more Bitcoin is emitted, and transactions at the same time, transactions are appended to the blockchain.
So what's needed for a miner? I guess massive computing power to get ahead of the next guy and
Yes.
during.
So initially you could have done it on your laptop when it first started, but then there's the difficulty goes up. And so as people figured out, well, I could get more powerful computers, a more powerful graphics card, or we can actually develop uh, a chip that its sole purpose is to mine Bitcoin. It became an arms race.
Mm-hmm.
And so now, for the average person to mine Bitcoin profitably, because you have to keep in mind you incur an electricity fee, you're incurring an electricity bill. You have to have a substantial investment um, to get the machinery to actually participate in validating transactions and to be awarded this Bitcoin.
I mean, give me a range. What kind of range of investment are we talking about? Millions of dollars or tens of millions or what are we talking about?
Yes.
Yes.
Like for for you to for you to get a good amount, right? And I'm when I say good amount, I'm talking about like maybe $10,000 like in a month. You would probably have to get the average ASIC, which is the hardware miners. They're about $1,500 a unit, and you have to get the power supply for it as well to supply it with power. So it'll probably be about, let's say, $2,000. You would have to get maybe, and this is rough off the top of my head, don't quote me on it. You'd have to price spend a good $20,000, if not more, for you to, and the difficulty has gone up. So, it's in short, for the average person, it is out of your reach right now. But there are other currencies that you could profitably mine with a relatively low investment, like Ethereum Classic, um, Dogecoin as well. Um, and there's a number of others, Litecoin as well. Um, the difficulty is not so high that is out of reach of the average of a person with the means of acquiring the equipment. Let's put it that way. And the reason why why I'm wording it like this is that there are Bitcoin mining operations opening up around the world, and some in Texas. They're opening up near hydroelectric dams all across the U.S. And the investment that they're putting in is like 10 million. So it's just to give you an idea, like, okay, they're putting in substantial amount of money so that they can reap this reward because Bitcoin right now is hovering around $50,000, $55,000. I mean, these
Wow.
guys are making a killing. In regards to Ethereum, Ethereum miners made around $3 million in the first quarter in fees alone. So I mean, this stuff's not going anywhere, and I bring up Ethereum mining and Bitcoin mining just to, give you an idea why there's such an arms race in regards to this.
So Corey, give us a sense of what you see the long range, 20 years out. Where is this going to go? I know some governments, China in particular, is talking about having a digital currency. That's not the same as cryptocurrency, is it? And how is this going to interface with the whole world economy as you see it down the road?
So what China is doing is actually, it may very well be a cryptocurrency. You know, they didn't come up with the idea on their own. Um, with that being said, it it would be a cryptocurrency of some sort, um, and they have been testing it out, um, and it seems I haven't heard too much of of it in regards to sending it outside of China. They right now they just done trials within Shenzhen. And Shenzhen is pretty much China's version of Silicon Valley. Um, so I haven't heard too much of it outside of China, as in terms of being traded outside of China, but I anticipate that it would be, and I see them being the first to market. In regards to 20 years down the line, um, I predict 5 years down the line that we won't be able to do anything of meaningful value on the internet without Ethereum or some other cryptocurrency. And when I say meaningful value, I mean to say, um, you know, posting stuff, you know, ads, you know, anything like trading value, it will be done in some form of cryptocurrency. And the reason why it's just so much more efficient, um, it's trackable, you know. I mean, for instance, if you have to pay someone outside of the US, right, you have to rely on a third party, and there's no real way to track that. Once you send a transaction via Western Union, yes, they guarantee that it's going to get to the other end, but you don't see how it traverses, and it can take days. Whereas with cryptocurrency, it takes seconds, for it to get to the person regardless of distance. So I say all this to say that if right now people are seeing the value of cryptocurrency, whether it's uh, whether it's the Dallas Mavericks accepting Bitcoin and Dogecoin, for entrance into their arena, um, whether it's this insurance company just announced that they're buying Bitcoin so that um, their clients, their users, can pay for auto insurance in Bitcoin or receive their claims in Bitcoin. Um, whether it's PayPal allowing users to buy and sell Bitcoin or Litecoin or any other cryptocurrency. I mean, if it's happening now like this, it's going to become exponential in the future. Um, I think the real tipping point is going to be deployment in um in an online game.
In where?
In an online game. So
Oh.
uh,
Mhm.
think of like a Fortnite like game or a Grand Theft Auto type game that is utilizing cryptocurrency in some way.
Hmm.
That's where I see that to me is the real tipping point.
Okay.
Yeah.
Wow.
So
Well, okay, we got about 5 minutes left. I know you're doing some stuff. You're working on a book. Can you tell us a little bit about the book you're working on and some of your plans, Corey? As in this industry, it's a new industry, and I'm so happy to see a brother involved in it as you are. I know you also teach
yes.
classes about this stuff. Tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, so I'm working on a book. It should be done by July, August. Um, and it's essentially a fundamentals book. It's, bas- it's, it's essentially the basics from A to Z. Um, and it's meant for, beginners, the intermediate, um, to help them fill in some of the gaps. Um, I do teach classes, and I plan on resuming classes in June or July. Um, because right now, just my main concentration has been development of um, of this cryptocurrency wallet um, with the accounting functions. So that's been my main thing right now. And
Hmm.
so since it's about 80% done, once it's done and out in the wild, um, it'll put my mind at ease, and it opens me up for doing some other stuff as well.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Okay, we've been talking with Corey Stedman, cryptocurrency expert. Uh, Corey, what would you like to leave our audience with? For regular folks out there who are kind of new to this whole area, what kind of parting thoughts would you like to leave with them?
Um, don't don't let the opportunity pass you by. Um, you know, 3 years ago was one of the best times to get into the cryptocurrency market. The second best time is now.
Okay.
Um, you know, don't let this time pass you by, because in the next 5 years, things are going to look very different, and you don't want to kick yourself.
And in a sentence or two, how do we get in? I mean, do we go on a market and buy it? How does a neophyte get into the market?
Um, since we are in New York, the best places to buy cryptocurrency is on the Gemini platform and the Coinbase platform. And if you have the links, you can put it in the description um, for YouTube.
Okay, give us those names again, just so the folks can.
Of
Gemini.
course, Gemini, which is Gemini.com. Gemini, um, like the astrological symbol,
Mm-hmm.
um, and Coinbase, Coinbase.com.
Okay. All right. Well, thank you. We've been talking with Corey Stedman, CEO of Greenfire and cryptocurrency expert extraordinaire. Thank you, Corey, for coming on.
Thank you so very much for having me on. Please invite me anytime.
Absolutely. And when you get that book done, please come on back and talk about it. Love to hear about it.
Oh, certainly, definitely. We'll be
Okay.
on. All
Great.
right.
Thanks.
No
This has
problem.
been
Bye.
Community and Technology with Stu Reid, WHCR 90.3 FM, the voice of Harlem. Stay tuned next week, 5 o'clock. Thanks for tuning in. Good night.